Hello. Before we get down to cinema, I would like to draw your attention to our Patreon. Regular listeners will know that these podcasts are supported by Quad, our home cinema in Derby, UK. But as Quad is a charity, we want to make Cinelit as self-sustainable as possible. So, to that end, we have set up a two-tier way in which you can support Cinelit. For our 35mm Cine fans, you'll get a bonus additional episode each month where we will be deep diving into an area of cinema that will be exclusive to Patreon subscribers for at least 6 months before it arrives like a late dinner guest on the regular feed. Plus, you get the episodes a week in advance of the main feed release. But if you want to support us and don't feel that pressing need to have the additional podcast each month, but still want that warm, satisfying feeling of being part of the Cinelit success story, then you can become an 8mm Cine fan, where you can donate and get our heartfelt thanks. Head over to the Patreon page and subscribe if you can. However, we know that times are hard at the moment, so please do not feel you need to subscribe if you are not able. We'll still be putting out new, free-to-listen-to episodes on a regular basis throughout the year. Now let's get back to your regular scheduled broadcast. Welcome to a festive edition of Cinelit. We are today talking Christmas movies, but we did Christmas movies last year, so we covered some of the big hitters, and this year we thought we'd look at something alternative for you to watch this Christmas. Now, we're not talking alternative in the case of watching a summer holiday movie or anything like that, just to get your mind out of Christmas. We still want that Christmas feel, but something that isn't played to death on TV and indeed in cinemas. My name is Adam Marsh. I'm your host today, and I'm joined as ever by our Cinelit resident expert, Daryl Buxton. How are you, Daryl?
Yeah, good, thanks, Adam. Merry Christmas to everyone listening, and hopefully we'll be talking about some stuff that you might have overlooked or might not have seen, and we'll bring something a little bit different to the Christmas table.
Yeah, and before we even start, Die Hard is a Christmas movie, so we won't be discussing that in too much great detail.
Yeah, and you know that's really now a mainstream Christmas movie as well. You know, so many people do that Die Hard is a Christmas movie thing that it's
not an
now,
alternative.
It's a Wonderful Life,
yeah,
isn't it? You know,
yeah.
so yeah. We're taking a deep dive here.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And we are also joined today by Dominic Burns, 80s film lover and self-confessed Christmas nut, I think your wording was.
Pass me the mulled wine, the Bailey's coffee, mix them together. Merry Christmas, everyone. Yeah. And whilst I always try and take on board other opinions, it is simple fact that Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't need to go into too much detail of that. Maybe we'll do it as a Patreon exclusive. We'll just deep dive on Die Hard on why it is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I'm in.
But no, we're talking about other types of other Christmas movies for your time. Now, we touched base on a couple last year when we was talking. We touched base on Cash on Demand.
Yeah, the Hammer film.
The Hammer film with Peter Cushing, we touched a little bit base on The Silent Partner, I think, with Elliot Gould.
Yeah. I actually listened to your podcast last year and went and watched Silent Partner, and Silent Partner's a great movie. I absolutely loved it. I don't know which one of you pair it was that recommended it.
Daryl.
Was it you, Daryl? That was a great shout. That was. Really enjoyed it. And I'm going to watch Cash on Demand this year.
Yeah.
Loved Silent Partner. That's a real shout, that.
Yeah. Earlier this year, we covered the French Connection duo of films.
Yeah, we didn't record that. That was recorded sort of in the middle of the year as well. But we still managed to get references to Santa Claus.
Absolutely.
So,
well, Popeye Dial of Santa. It's like that's another good alternative one. But we've all picked one, maybe two films that are of consideration this Christmas. Who wants to go first?
I think you should.
I should.
Yeah, you're the boss.
Dip in silence there. No one wants to go.
I know. I'm going to go with a fairly mainstream one, actually, because it's a fairly big one, but it's one that I always love. And to be honest, until recently, I never really thought of it as a Christmas movie. And I'm still not sure whether I do think of it as a Christmas movie, but it's Batman Returns.
Oh, great shout. Great shout.
I love those first two Tim Burton Batman movies. Big part of my childhood growing up. And Batman Returns is a beautiful film. And visually, it is imbued with Christmas. The way it's shot, the way the set design is done, is all about Christmas. It could have been called Batman Saves Christmas.
Probably should have been now.
Probably should have been, yeah. Batman Returns to Save Christmas would have been a great title as well. But it doesn't rely heavily on Christmas as a plot. in the same way that, say, Die Hard does, where a lot of the plot sequences in Die Hard, you said we weren't going to talk about Die Hard, but here I am talking about Die Hard. A lot of the plot sequences in Die Hard are about Christmas and have Christmas themes. This one doesn't really have that, but there's something about it that is Christmassy.
But you can almost categorise Christmas movies in two ways, in a sense. A Christmas movie which is about Christmas, or a Christmas movie which is set at Christmas. Both of which, for me, count as a Christmas movie, but they're just different types. Like Die Hard isn't necessarily about Christmas. It's set in Christmas, and Christmas is integral to the plot. And I'm talking about Die Hard again already.
Yeah.
But Batman Returns is very much a Christmas movie, set at Christmas. It's, its aesthetic is very Christmassy, as you say, but it's not like the fact that it is at Christmas isn't really central to the plot.
I think there's a third one. I think there's set at Christmas, about Christmas, and then there's a film that's not about Christmas but utilises Christmas as a way to deliver its plot storyline, like Die Hard.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I would split that set at Christmas category as well into two halves. I think there are films that are set at Christmas that sort of lean towards Christmas as part of the feel. And there are films that are set at Christmas that have nothing to do with Christmas. And you just get the date.
Almost a Shane Black.
December the 22nd suddenly flashes up on the screen. And you think, oh, right, while these guys are all shooting each other, aren't their wives out buying presents? So, yeah, you do get these films that are set in late December, but isn't absolutely go out of their way to avoid mentioning Christmas.
Isn't Alien set at Christmas?
Yeah,
I think so. I think someone mentioned something. I said we're recording this podcast today, and he went, "Oh yeah, Alien set at Christmas."
So yeah, I think this whole Die Hard is a Christmas movie thing can run and run and run for centuries, because I think there are so many films out there. Once people get fed up with saying that about Die Hard, I think there are so many other contenders that you can pick on.
Well, no, because the thing is, if you take, I just mentioned Shane Black, so he sets there's so many of his films at Christmas.
Yeah.
Now, if you take Lethal Weapon, now that is, I wouldn't say that's a Christmas movie.
No.
Because it is set at Christmas. There's a Christmas aesthetic to it. Obviously, it's in LA, so it's a little bit different because it doesn't have that classic sort of snowy, cold feel. But even though Lethal Weapon's set at Christmas, it's less integral to the plot than it is in Die Hard.
Yeah.
Die Hard is set at Christmas, at a Christmas party. He's going back because it's Christmas. They're trying to reunite the family for Christmas. There's just a Christmas feel about it. Whereas Lethal Weapon, Christmas just happens, it's just in the background. This story just happens to be set during the time.
The opening scene set in a Christmas tree selling lot, it's already made its way into my...
Adam, we've had this argument between you and me about the first Rocky movie, which I think is a Christmas film, and you think is a film set at Christmas that's nothing to do with Christmas.
But ironically, I think Rocky 1 is a film that's set at Christmas and nothing to do with Christmas. But Rocky 4 is a Christmas movie.
Christmas movie.
Absolutely. Because you get snow, you're getting montaging in the snow. It's like that's. This on Christmas Day, for goodness' sake.
This all feeds into Batman Returns, I think, because here in Tim Burton, we've got a director who is immersed in festivity, and he likes his holidays. And around the same time that he did Batman Returns, was working with Henry Selick on the animation Nightmare Before Christmas.
Exactly, yeah.
So here's a Christmas guy. Here's a guy who celebrates Yuletide in a big way.
Yeah,
so.
you can see that particularly in the aesthetics of most Tim Burton films, which we'll go on to we'll talk about directors with a Christmas aesthetic later on.
Yeah.
But definitely with Tim Burton, even his non-Christmas films feel like Christmas films. You watch Sleepy Hollow, and it's like, it's got a bit of a Christmas vibe, Birdie.
Edward Scissorhands.
Exactly. Edward Scissorhands is perfect. Yeah, not particularly a Christmas movie, but feels like Christmas.
Very easily could be, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think Christmas. I think Batman Returns does that as well. And also, it's got the best Catwoman. I think in history. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Is it even? I might go so far as to say it's the best Batman movie that there's ever been. In my opinion, I don't think those first two Burton films have been topped. I really don't.
Yeah,
it's a good shout.
This might be a generational thing, because while I was waiting for these films to come out, while I was waiting for the 1989 Batman. I mean, you guys were younger, but I bet you were all excited about it. But for people of my generation, Batman on film wasn't a thing. It was like it often came up in conversation sort of in the late 70s, early 80s. I wonder if they're ever going to do another Batman movie again, or any superhero for that matter. The Superman films were a huge thing because, someone's brought a comic book superhero to the screen, and Batman had rather been written off as a character because people foolishly seemed to despise the Adam West sort of take on it, which sounds ridiculous now because it's
wholly contentious
cool,
opinion.
Yeah, there were people who sort of took against that, and if you mentioned Batman and if you sort of suggested, wouldn't it be great if someone made a Batman movie, a lot of people would just have reacted and said, oh no, it'd be terrible. You've all seen that old TV show; it'd be awful. Yeah.
And that worked. That's what happened.
I know.
Joel Schumacher took it into that territory, and they were off.
Yeah. But people do credit Burton with almost launching the comic book era because people forget that comic book movies just weren't taken seriously.
Not at all. Not at all.
I mean, for me, it was. I was grew up as a huge fan of the Adam West show, but I was obviously a kid. It was perfect for my age. And then when I always remember Batman vividly. Came out and it was the first, if I remember correctly, I think it was the first 12 certificate in the UK. And when Batman came out, I was pulling my hair out with excitement. And then the damn thing came out, and I think I was 9 when it came out. Couldn't go and see it because it was a 12.
Yeah,
you see, I was 12.
I bought the novelisation.
So I saw it. It was wonderful.
Yeah. I bought the novelisation.
But just being there in the cinema at that time, you couldn't replace it.
Can I swear on this podcast? So for me that. Even now, it was so strange. I actually watched the 1989 Batman a couple of months ago with my girlfriend, and I said to her, even now, I get a weird little buzz about being able to watch this movie. Yeah. There's something so deep down in me that was so gutted that I couldn't see it.
Do you know the other big thing about the release of Batman? It was one of the early 12s, and it was really the reason why the 12 certificate was created. The other major thing about it was, again, this is a generational thing. You guys might not remember this all that well, but for years and years and years, for decades, we got new releases 6 or 9 months or a year after they came out in America. And this happened all over the world. America would release the Hollywood movies. Everywhere else would get them months and months later, sometimes up to a year or more, And that changed with Batman. I think the demand from movie distributors, and I guess video piracy and things may have had a sort of effect on this, but distributors seem to start putting pressure on the film companies to say, look, can we have, if not a simultaneous release, a release within a short space of time, because if you leave this for 6 months, everyone's going to pirate this film, or they're going to see it in other places. And of course, there wasn't a problem with spoilers at that time, as there is now with online, but because we were sort of transmitting information by carrier pigeon back then. It was so there wasn't really too much danger perceived as being, we're going to find out all the plot 6 months early, But there was this thing that people were desperate to see films that were coming out in New York and LA, and Batman was one of the first. I have to check the dates on this, but I think we got it about a fortnight after it came out in the States.
Wow.
And that was like, that happens all the time now. There's simultaneous release for everything now, but at that time it was a massive deal. Oh right, we can get to see this brand new film. We've not got to wait 6 months till Christmas.
But it also coincided, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because I was 8 years old at the time, but I think it coincided with the multiplexes here.
Yes, very much.
Which also I imagine
it was one of the first
demand.
big multiplex movies.
Yeah.
Well, the two in Derby opened.
Yeah,
just months before Batman came out. Yeah,
I remember that.
Obviously, both chains, I think, would have been aware that Batman was on the way. It was films like that and Who Framed Roger Rabbit that I think led to the multiplex explosion. Yeah. And there's a thing linking with Christmas, Adam. If we'd had the normal distribution pattern for Batman, that would have come out at Christmas over here.
Yeah.
Instead of the summer.
Well, similar to like Gremlins, and Gremlins was released in the summer in America.
So you might even be talking about Batman as a Christmas movie. But let's not digress from, we've diverged a bit from Batman Returns. So What do you want to say about?
Well, nothing else. I mean, we talked about it. It's just one of those great films that improves on the original. There's not that many sequels that are better than the original. Often a couple of Christmas
and the original's way up there.
The original's a great film as well. I mean, but this one just kind of like, I don't know. I think mainly Michael Keaton's great as Bruce Wayne and Batman. But I think Michelle Pfeiffer's just so good.
Christopher Walken. I love Christopher Walken.
Well, Walken's okay.
As part of the big Christmas feel, do you think that Danny DeVito playing almost like a Dickensian sort of version of the Penguin lends to that whole seasonal sort of
definitely. I mean, it's an Oswald Cobblepot. Sounds like a Dickens character.
It's right out of Scrooge. It's right out of Christmas Carol, isn't it?
And he shoots it that way as well. I mean, like the sets and things like that. The underground lair. It feels like an old-fashioned like Christmas.
And the guy controls an army of penguins. So again, they're not necessarily Christmassy, but there is this association with the cold and snow and stuff. So
not necessarily Christmassy, but right out of a Dickens book.
Oh yeah.
I must admit, I actually do prefer the 1989 Batman, but I love Batman Returns. I think they're both crackers. I think it's a great crackers. There you go for the Christmas pun. But I think I do marginally prefer the original.
I think for me the original. I think Jack Nicholson, while he is great, I think he unbalances the movie a little bit because his performance is so
because Keaton's underplaying a
absolutely
as well, and Nicholson is enhanced.
I think they balance each other out fantastically. I love that. And Nicholson's one of those actors for me who just gets away with just going for it, just blabbing off the screen. He's just like he just gets away. He can get away with that. But I'm sort of hesitant to use the term OTT because he's such a fine actor. But he.
But I think he was veering into that territory during these years, and the OTT character. I think post Shining. He's like, I can get away with this now. I can do that.
He can pull it off. He can pull it off. Another actor tries that and just looks ridiculous. Pulls it off.
It's easy to go just go completely over the top there without some measure of control, isn't it?
Oh, there's a lot of control. I think he's a very smart actor. But when he's just putting his foot down and going for it, I think he's changing gear there.
Well, you see that in Batman Forever, don't you? Where you've got Jim Carrey, you've got Tommy Lee Jones, both going over the top and crazy, and it's like it really doesn't work with those guys.
So, Adam, what do you think Christmas is like in the Tim Burton household?
Well, I think we've seen it, haven't we? He's not been shy about putting it on film in like Nightmare on Christmas and things. I think he's got like orphans singing Christmas carols to him when he wakes up in the morning. I think that's I think you'll feed them like horse chestnuts and
Is it Christmas every day in Tim Burton?
I don't know. I think it spoils the fun of it if it's every day. But I think he feels like the guy who goes for it.
Every day. Adam doesn't really think that.
No, I don't. But for me that movie's a good alternative to watch if you fancy something different at Christmas than your Home Alones and your.
That's a great show.
And your other stuff. Yeah. What have you got for us, Darryl?
Well, I've got a film that is the sort of anti-Die Hard in that it's not a Christmas movie. So why am I talking about it here? But it's John Waters' Female Trouble, and it may not be all set at Christmas. But the bits that are set at Christmas, oh man. The film starts at Christmas, and as fans of John Waters know, and as fans of Female Trouble know, we've got Divine coming back from returning from a wonderful, wonderful role in Pink Flamingos 2 years earlier, playing a character called Dawn Davenport here. So there's already this idea that we've got Harris Glenn Milstead playing Divine. But in Waters' world, Divine is an actress and a superstar, and she can play different characters, So even though she's a character herself, she plays different characters. So she's called Babs in Pink Flamingos. She's called Dawn Davenport here. And she's a teenage girl as well, which is wonderful. How, they don't get away with that. And that's the great thing about Waters' films. He does these things and he doesn't get away with them and he doesn't care.
Well, I think that's part of the joy of Waters' films, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's tapping into that melodrama of the 1950s teen movie where every teenager looked like they were 55.
Yeah,
So I think this just ties in with that, doesn't it?
But he owns that.
Oh,
he absolutely takes control of that and takes charge of it, with Divine as his representative on screen. I do get the sense with John Waters that he'd love to be up on screen in these costumes, either playing Divine's parts or Edith Massey's or David Locary's, and Locary being the person who's most like the sort of Waters physical representative on screen. But you sense he'd love to be getting in the frocks and doing all this stuff, but he's just not. Even John Waters isn't confident enough to go there, so he needs these sort of ciphers to do it for. He needs these avatars to do it for him, Female Trouble is great because it shows Divine from Pink Flamingos now playing a new role as this teenage delinquent. And the first 5 or 10 minutes of the film are where it's at. They really kick proceedings off. It's basically a JD story. It's a troubled teenager on the run, getting in all kinds of sort of criminality and ending up being executed. But not before shooting everyone at a press conference, a la ripped off by Julian Temple when he made the My Way video with the Sid Vicious, which is a complete steal from a press conference scene in Female Trouble. But the first part of the movie is set at Christmas, and if you want to ruin your Christmas, it's essential viewing.
If you have kids and you're worried about the presents you got them not aligning with what they want for Christmas, this is not the movie to watch.
This is the ultimate warning to parents. Buy your kids what they ask for, because if you don't, this is what's going to happen.
Get them those goddamn cha-cha heels.
It's all about the cha-cha heels. Dawn Davenport wants this particular pair of shoes, and she demands this pair of shoes. And there's a shoe box under the tree. There's all these great presents on. It's a typical Norman Rockwell type Christmas, great sort of cheesy setting, Waters really, really having a dig at the American family and at the whole American way of celebrating Christmas. But again, it's the way he celebrates it himself, but he sees the sort of parody within that, and whereas your typical American family doesn't. They're doing it out of a sense of love and out of a sense of taking on board the whole religious aspect of the season and everything, I
think the good thing about John Waters' films, and it's one of the reasons why I don't like Bad Santa, John Waters, he doesn't glorify Christmas. He doesn't embrace the sentimentality of Christmas. He presents it with a satirical eye. But he still fucking loves Christmas.
Oh, absolutely.
You feel that. When you watch something like Bad Santa, it's having a go at Christmas.
And it's mean-spirited.
It's mean-spirited.
I like that about Bad Santa because it's different. It's something new. But I think if I had to state a preference, it would be the John Waters approach, where you can take the piss and you can embrace it all as well. You can be hypocritical about it. That's a wonderful thing about it.
I love Bad Santa. I'll definitely go.
I do. I like it a lot.
I love it, and I think that
it is a mean-spirited film, but I don't mind that. I think it's great.
I do agree that it has a mean spirit going through it, but I think that's actually quite refreshing. Because I quite liked it. I mean, it's just but
not everyone watches 17 billion cheesy Christmas films every year.
No, but I think it's refreshing in terms of it. It was like, especially at the time, it was quite controversial. It took them a while to release it. Disney sat on it for a while. They just didn't know what the hell to do with it. As far as I remember. But I think what's interesting about that movie is, despite the fact that it does have that sort of mean streak through it, it still remains a Christmas staple of a lot of people who love Christmas.
And it does have, even though it fights against it, it's got a sort of Christmas sentimentality.
It's overwhelmed by it. It is.
I don't know.
I know loads of people who love watching it as part of their, fully embracing the Christmas spirit and put Bad Santa on. I think it's just something about it that's just, I think it feels like it's mean-spirited, but I also think it's in on the joke. I think it knows.
I don't know. I think it's in on the joke, but he equally still hates Christmas.
I don't think it does.
I think it does. I think that's what I got from it.
I'm on the fence here, and I like being on the fence because I think, for me, that's where the movie is, and you can sort of make your own decision.
Totally agree. That's fair. I think that's really fair. It's your interpretation.
If you like the title Bad Santa and you're sort of chuckling about that and thinking, oh, great, they're destroying Christmas here, you get that in the movie. But if you want a nice Christmas movie, you sort of get that as well. Where you don't get that is in Female Trouble, where it's it's beyond cynical. You know, the parents buy the wrong present, but they bought a pair of shoes. They clearly bought a pair of shoes, and Dawn Davenport rips open the wrapping paper and the string, opens the box lid, and goes berserk. You know, where are my cha-cha heels? You know, and just goes crazy and starts stomping around the room. The sort of thing a typical sort of 15-year-old teenager having a tantrum would do. But it's this huge, you know, bulk of a guy in drag doing it, which is great. And the mum and dad are so good. They're brilliant sort of Waters straights, really. Waters is so good at casting straight characters and having them play this parody of the American nuclear family, you know, and they're so straight-laced and trying to calm their daughter down, you know. And Dawn Davenport, Divine, just goes crazy and basically ruins Christmas, ultimately by knocking over this huge Christmas tree that's festooned with baubles and lights, and knocks it over on top of her mum, who's lying there like the Wicked Witch of the West underneath it, and presumably dead. We never find out, but by the time we're asking the question, is she okay? Dawn's out the door and doing something else. You know, she's on to the next stage of this sort of candy-like journey, you know, that she goes through. That image of the mum trapped under the tree, probably dead, and straight out of The Wizard of Oz is just the ultimate Christmas movie image for me. Waters, like Tim Burton, is immersed in Christmas. I mean, people listening to this can't see this, but I've got John Waters' book Crackpot here, which is his collected essays that appeared in various magazines and newspapers over the years. And every Christmas day, I make a point of reading his essay that's in here called Why I Love Christmas. And it's so great. It's John Waters talking about his favourite Christmas songs, his favourite Christmas movies, what he does at Christmas, and it's brilliant. I mean, for example, his favourite Christmas movie of all time is one that we've shown here at Quad, Christmas Evil, the one about the killer Santa Claus who works in a toy shop by day and kills people by night, you know. This psychopath who isn't Santa but dresses up as Santa, but then is he Santa, you know? Waters loves that film, and he says basically, if you've got bad children or naughty children, you must force them to watch this every Christmas. Waters loves Christmas, and he said himself he would like to celebrate it 365 days a year. One thing he does is he holds a Christmas party. I don't know if he still does this, but for years and years he held a Christmas party where he'd invite 100 of his best friends to come, or 100 people he knew in Hollywood. And his instruction to them would be, you've got to buy everyone else a present. So there ended up being 10,000 presents at this thing, you know, and there's this orgy of sort of, you know, unwrapping the presents, and Waters in the middle of it, just loving watching the biggest stars in Hollywood sort of unwrapping gifts for each other, you know. He also sends a Christmas card out every year. He does a personalised Christmas card. And I don't know whether he ever got round to this, but in his essay he says, my perfect design for a Christmas card. Well, he'd done one where he'd bought a card from a store, just like a typical Hallmark card. And it was Mary, Joseph and the baby Jesus. And he'd superimposed the face of Charles Manson on Jesus. But he'd left the message inside the card, which said, he is born.
Well, going back to Charlie Manson, the Female Trouble has got a connection to the Manson family, hasn't it? Because he was visiting one of the Manson families in prison at the time.
That's
and it
right.
inspired the story.
And the film's actually dedicated to him. So Waters is immersed in sort of true crime and loves going to court cases and trials and things, and did actually go to the Manson trial, But this Christmas card that he says in the essay he's always wanted to design, and I'm not sure if he ever got round to doing this, was, again, it was going to be John Waters sat in a nice comfy armchair in front of a roaring fire, with a pipe or something, a glass of eggnog. Again, in typical sort of Norman Rockwell, cheesy Americana setting, And in the background, there'd be a Christmas tree and a pile of presents. And the presents were going to be on fire, with a trail of fire leading towards the tree, which is about to explode. And that was going to be his Christmas card one year. So, the guy loves Christmas, but he loves it in his own way. And I think in Female Trouble, he shows us Christmas the John Waters way.
Mm-hmm. No, it's super camp, which also ties into Christmas as well. It's just so ridiculous, the sort of like Americanization of Christmas, I guess, over the last 50 years. That it's almost become its own parody in some way, where you embrace the ridiculousness.
Yeah, I mean, we all live in American Christmas, I guess, now, don't we? Yeah.
Well, I love what you just said, Darren, in the sense of he loves Christmas, but he loves it in his own way.
Yeah.
That, to me, is the point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, without getting schmaltzy, that is the point of Christmas.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that's why so many Christmas movies, I don't think there's any genre of movie that is more loved by fans and hated by critics. It's so rare to get a critically raved about Christmas movie, but it's very, very common that you get movies that people literally watch, 2-3 times a year, maybe.
Yeah. And one thing you get around the world is you get sort of localized things. There's this famous thing in Germany where there's this old British comedy from about 1960 or something that they show in Germany every year, and it's barely known over here. I can't remember the title of it. We'll have to look it up and do a link to it or something. But it's like this one-off British Christmas set comedy that's like a staple on German TV to this day. And of course, the big one in America is Bob Clark's A Christmas Story. Now, Bob Clark's known over here and worldwide for Porky's, and in Christmas terms, he's known for the horror film Black Christmas.
Yes, of course, yeah.
But in America, not only is Bob Clark best known for A Christmas Story, but that's the Christmas movie. That's seen in the same light that we see the Alistair Sim, A Christmas Carol, and the world at large.
Can't get a foothold over it, though, can it?
You showed it. We came sit here. It was great.
Just doesn't travel, does it?
It doesn't know how
I don't know why, because it's great.
It's a great movie. Yeah. I don't know why it's never really landed here, but I think it's one of those ones where it needed to penetrate the zeitgeist back in the day.
Yeah, you sort of had to see
pass on from generation
to generation. Well, I think it's interesting because
It's
a Wonderful Life only really got a foothold here like 20 years ago when independent cinema started showing it every year sort of thing to try and create.
Because again, that's
a big deal.
Yeah, that's a film that was never really talked about as a Christmas movie for many, many years. It was the Die Hard of its day, really.
Yeah.
So, suddenly people started saying, oh yeah, do you realise It's a Wonderful Life is a Christmas film?
I think in America it was definitely a Christmas film, similar to Christmas Story, where it's played on TV every Christmas, and it became that Christmas staple. Like in Home Alone, it's there on TV, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Gremlins as well. It's Bedford Falls. It's Christmas for people. Whereas over here, that didn't really land until like mid-90s. Like
Gremlins is like the anti It's a Wonderful Life. They even show a clip of It's a Wonderful Life in Gremlins. It's like known as the sort of.
It's kind of a weird one because this brilliance of Joe Dante, he's like it builds itself as a kind of like anti It's a Wonderful Life, anti-hometown,
even anti.
And then you're watching it, you think this isn't anti-Christmas. This loves Christmas. This loves America. It loves small town America. It's got all those things.
It's all the things we've said about Bad Santa, right? Yeah. It sort of does pitch itself as being very anti the holiday season and anti that sort of tradition and that schmaltz. But it's immersed in it itself. Yeah, and there we mentioned A Christmas Story and Black Christmas, and I think alongside Tim Burton with John Waters as well. Bob Clark's another name to throw in and say there's a guy who epitomises the Christmas movie as well as anybody, because he's made the great Christmas horror movie, and he's made the great American Christmas story, with A Christmas Story.
And I feel like he's not credited really enough for that. I mean, it's amazing when you think about it. He's made one of the most wholesome, hilarious, fantastic, warm Christmas movies, and then he's made the best Christmas slasher there is.
I think Clark has got distinct audiences. There are people that like the Porky's films. There are people that like the horror films he did, which he did a string of, including Black Christmas. And there are people that like A Christmas Story. I don't think there's a lot of overlap.
I think he's dissected his audience in some ways. He's like, nobody knows who. We know, but people generally don't know who directed Scrooge. The Alice in Scrooge, who directed that. They don't know who directed Mary Poppins. They don't know Wizard of Oz. They don't know those kind of names.
That's often the thing with Christmas movies. It's the film itself that is the selling pitch. It's not even about who's in it always. It's more about the title, and it's about the film itself, and it's about the story it tells. Even more so if it's based on traditional material, like the Scrooge films are.
So, Dom, we've put forward our amazing, brilliant Christmas movies. What amazing, brilliant Christmas movie are you bringing to the table?
Well, I feel like I'm going to follow Darren. I've just gone on for 15 minutes about John Waters, and I've been fascinated the whole way, by the way. And I feel, do you know what? Because you mentioned to me yesterday, I was only asked to do this a couple of days ago, and I was filming yesterday in London, so I've had no real time. That's my sort of get out of jail free card.
Always excuses with this guy.
But I really wanted to see Female Trouble, and I will watch it because I haven't had a chance since I knew. But I didn't. I'm sort of woefully unaware of John Waters' movies. Actually, I know who he is, and I like Crybaby. I love that movie, but.
Tom, I envy you. If you've got all that to discover, you're in for a treat.
Well, I need to. I really do need to, because it's just one of those people, a bit like we were talking a couple of weeks ago, Adam, about Elvira. In the sense that I know who she is. I've kind of always got that warmth toward her, but I've only recently kind of educated myself on actually what she does. Yeah. And I feel like Waters is very similar. I know what he's about.
You sort of know in the same way that you know the Elvira character, you know the Divine character, but you've not seen them in action.
Yeah, well, ironically, you know the John Waters character as well. He's cropping up his cameos in Alvin and the Chipmunks.
He's very much a persona, isn't he? Yeah. But this is all keeping us away from finding out what Tom's Christmas movie.
Brilliant Christmas movie.
I don't want to say. So, obviously, alternate Christmas movies. We've kind of mentioned Bad Santa, we've mentioned Gremlins, and I thought about going Kiss Kiss Bang Bang or something, or because I was trying to think of something that was different to the obvious, that people might not have seen, that I enjoyed, and I chose it. And then I hadn't realised, even though I sort of knew, I watched this film, and I'm building it up far too much, but I watched this film with two different heads, and my critical head is aware that I'm not watching an incredibly fashioned film, but I'm loving it anyway, loving every second of it. And it's a movie called Mixed Nuts. Now, this movie has got an incredible cast. Steve Martin stars, Rita Wilson, early and bonkers performance from Adam Sandler, Juliette Lewis, Liev Schreiber, Rob Reiner, Gary Shandling, Madeline Kahn, Anthony LaPaglia, Jon Stewart, Parker Posey. I mean, the cast is insane. And I think a lot of that is because it was directed by Nora Ephron. It was her follow-up to Sleeps in Seattle. So it had a lot of expectation. And but I knew none of this. I think I just stumbled across it on Sky Movies or something one day. Other movie channels are available, and it made me laugh, and I thought it was fun, and I thought it was nuts. And you made the point when I suggested the film, Adam, which I think is a really, really smart point, in that a lot of the actors seem to think they're in different movies. You've got kind of Adam Sandler who thinks he's in a spoof. You've got Steve Martin doing what Steve Martin does so brilliantly, and I think it's fresh in my mind as well because of Only Murders in the Building, which I absolutely loved. Thought it was perfect, and I think. But this is one of those movies that I've suggested quite a lot over the years to friends of mine who've never heard of it. Can't believe they've never heard of it with that cast. And they watch it, and maybe it's the mulled wine or the Christmas spirit, but they enjoy it. Yeah. And I think that's leading on from the point you made previously, Darryl, about enjoying it in your own way. Yeah. I just feel like there's so many kind of films that. I'm a filmmaker, so I'm always so reluctant to in any way criticize other filmmakers because I just know how hard it is and how many different things can go wrong that are not necessarily in your hands. But I'm aware that a lot of the Christmas movies I love, if they were set in summer, I probably wouldn't. Probably
Well,
wouldn't.
that's the thing about Christmas movie in general. You get away with bloody murder.
You kind of do, right? You
Christmas
just kind of do.
movies, yeah.
And this is funny. It's bonkers. It's genuinely an original setting. There's, it's set over one night, and I always kind of enjoy films that take place over a short time period because I kind of feel like you're kind of entering the world with them and going along with. I know it sounds a bit strange, but I've always enjoyed those type of films. And so, and I just sort of jump in, go for the adventure. And it's a film that I will often watch with someone who hasn't seen it because I enjoy watching them laugh along with it. And so far, the hit rate of people I've shown it to is perfect. Everyone's really, really enjoyed it. But again, it's that Christmas spirit, right? It's the Christmas factor that you can't, because this is not a film that were I reviewing it, and I don't review films, but were I reviewing it, I wouldn't necessarily, it's not like I'd give it a 5-star rating. But I love it. I enjoy it.
It's 5-star while you're watching.
And it's definitely alternative, and it's definitely a film that a lot of people I know haven't heard of. I know your audience is very cine literate. That's the whole point of the title.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they've heard of it, probably don't like it. But for those of you who haven't heard of it, if you love a Christmas movie and you don't care, you just want to put your feet up and enjoy a great cast, having a bit of fun, then I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it on your recommendation, Dom. I've never seen it, and I like Nora Ephron's films, and for some reason didn't go and see this one when it first emerged, and haven't caught it since. So, and you're the first person to mention it to me in years, and I'll definitely check it out as recommended with a glass of mulled wine. So
best way of viewing it.
What you've not gone into, and of course, some of us haven't seen it, so don't go into spoilers or anything. But you've not really gone into what the gist of it is and how it connects with Christmas.
Totally. So what it is, it's set. I think it's actually. I don't know if it states that it's Christmas Eve, but it's set right in the thick of the holiday season, and it takes place around a crisis hotline. Steve Martin runs a crisis hotline, which obviously is particularly busy over Christmas, and it's in trouble. They're on the verge of being closed. So Steve Martin's trying to sort of hide the fact that they're on the verge of closing down from the rest of the staff, so as not to worry them. And so you've got the rest of the staff who all in themselves are characters. You've got other people that occupy this building in which the crisis hotline centre is located. And then you've got the people calling up. I mean, it's just, you've got, Liev Schreiber playing a drag queen. You've got an axe murderer in there. It's very hard to sort of encompass, really. And it's very hard to sell and make it sound like the fun that it is. So it's just a big sort of melting pot of madness, really.
Yeah. Is it played out as sort of episodic, or do the characters all sort of interact with it?
No, it's almost, you could do it on stage. It almost plays out as a farce.
Yeah.
That's what it plays out as. It's all, you could, I think it would actually make quite a fun stage show. It's one of those kind of like, the confusion and the chaos thickens.
Yeah.
And things.
So almost like a one set, a sort of confined space.
I mean, it's not quite, but it's that. Yeah. It's from that point of view.
Yeah. And how Christmassy is it? Do they get the cheesy?
It's fully Christmas. Yeah, it's fully Christmas. I mean, at one point they hide a dead body in a Christmas tree. So you got that.
You're back into John Waters territory there. Yeah,
but it's nowhere near. It's nowhere near the John Waters. It's basically family friendly stuff. I think it's like, I don't know, 12, 15 maybe, but it's not. There's nothing too controversial about it, but it is fun, and it is. I don't know. I think with again, with Christmas films and certainly with comedies, there is a certain enjoyment taken, at least for me, when you can feel like the cast are enjoying it, having fun. Yeah. And I definitely get the vibe that everyone's having a bit of a laugh.
And is it one of those films, if it wasn't set at Christmas, would you enjoy it less, do you think?
No comment, Darryl. And do you know what? Honestly, I don't know. It's a fair question. Maybe not. If I'm honest, because I'm just such a sucker for just getting in and just sort of settling down into a Christmas movie. But I mean, the thing is, from I don't want to get boring and talk business, but the like Christmas movies, the amount of Christmas movies that are churned out every year is astounding. I mean, the amount of original Christmas movies, there's so many made every year. And, half decent budgets as well.
Yeah. Well, some of the UK TV channels start showing them in like July and August, don't they?
Well, I mean, you've got like, the Hallmark channel, and in the States it's Lifetime. I don't know if we have that over here, but they start showing them 24/7 from like, late October, November. Yeah. and a lot of them are originals, you know, and they have, I mean, those Hallmark ones, you know, they have, as far as I understand it, I don't want to sort of step on toes by saying this, but they do have a very set format to the extent where they don't actually want that much to happen because they're designed for like a busy mom or a dad who's at home. You have to go into the next room to change the nappy and come back, and you can still follow the movie. So they don't want any sort of twists and turns. They want it to just sort of play out very ABC. You know?
And from what I know, they're often about, they involve characters very similar to the audience that's going to be watching the film.
Yeah.
So it is representative.
And you've got, you know, the kings of those sort of, you've got, you know, Melissa Joan Hart and my mate Dean Cain and, you know, all those, you know, there's a lot of people who star in a bunch of those movies and have fun doing it.
Yeah, it's a great way of getting work, I guess. Yeah,
I know. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's, you know, and also the irony is that those type of movies, I mean, the ratings they get this time of year are huge. I mean, you nail a Hallmark movie, you probably get more people see that movie than you would a half decent theatrical hit in the cinemas. You know?
Yeah. Here's a question for you, Dom. Are you tempted to make a Christmas film at any point?
Watch this space. You know, there is. Well, I've written and I'm shopping one right now, and I don't want to say any more than that. I'm very, very excited about it. And your co-host and I have some ideas boiling off as well for Christmas movies that we've been developing for a little while. So yeah, you never know. We might enter that Christmas space.
Very not. Now I didn't know it before. I've not asked that question as a sort of trigger for you to say all this. I genuinely didn't know. So
I've got one in particular.
Great to hear.
Yeah, I've got one in particular we're offered out at the moment to a couple of actors. So if they would say yes, then this time next year I might be on here promoting my own.
Yeah. And have you always had a dream of sort of doing a Christmas movie, or is it something that's come to you recently?
Do you know what it is? In all honesty, what it is that I've always wanted to make a Christmas movie, and I've this year actually I sold a script that was a Christmas horror movie. Came quite close to making it, but then got an offer I couldn't refuse on the script. So hopefully the guys who bought that will bring that out next year. So maybe I could be the new Bob Clark with a horror and a comedy at the same time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But the obviously I don't consider myself that good at all.
But you need to do your Porkies as well before you become the new Bob Clark.
But I don't even know what a Porky's movie in the 21st century would look like.
No, well, it's not an impossibility.
But what it is with what it is that I'm a huge fan of Christmas Carol, the Charles Dickens book. Read it many times. My granddad gave it me when I was a kid, so it's something I read most years. I love it. And so what I always dreamed of was trying to come up with an idea that was genuinely original, but probably one of the most told stories in the history of storytelling. Yeah. And suddenly an idea hit me, and I couldn't believe that it hadn't been done before. And so I think I've come up with a relatively original take on A Christmas Carol.
Wow.
And that's what I'm trying to hopefully do next year.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Way to tease the audience there.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there any other films that you want to flag up as potential Christmas viewings this year? The one that you reminded me of a film when you talk about mixed nuts, of a film called The Ref, starring I think it had a different title in America, but over here it was called The Ref, and it starred Dennis Leary. Yeah, he was just moving into acting after his successful comedian career of robbing Bill Hicks blind before channeling it into a Hollywood career. He's the lead in this, but alongside Judy Davis and Kevin Spacey, and its bickering couple at Christmas get robbed by Dennis Leary's burglar character, who ends up being trapped with this married couple who hate each other and are bickering and arguing. He's caught in the middle, like, you know, supposedly the criminal, but you end up having immense sympathy for this guy who's caught between this warring, on the verge of divorce couple.
No, I bet. Do you know, I've never seen that. I'll check that out.
It's a fun gem.
I think it was last year I saw it, maybe a couple of years ago. It was a Netflix movie called Better Watch Out, a horror. Mm-hmm. That was fun. It wasn't amazing, but it was good fun. It was kind of in the world of The Babysitter.
Yeah.
I saw that, the first one. So that's a lot of fun. Better Watch Out. And obviously Gremlins is just, you know, but it's just, the problem with talking about Gremlins is there's a million podcasts. I mean, Adam and I have literally toured with Zach Galligan around the UK with Gremlins.
That is a Christmas movie now. It's only alternative in the subject matter, I guess. It's become a Christmas staple now.
love it. I just adore it. I mean, it's so good.
Yeah.
But
Daryl,
being Mr. Horror, and I'm going to go for a film that we showed here, and we interviewed the director over Skype some years ago, Lewis Jackson. The film that John Waters regards as the best Christmas movie ever. We've already mentioned it, Christmas Evil, which is also known as You Better Watch Out. So similarly,
it's a really good film, that.
And also called Terror in Toyland, I think. So Christmas Evil. If you sort of need to imagine Taxi Driver done as a Christmas movie. This sort of morose loner of a guy who hates everything, works in a toy shop, this really horrible sort of cheap toy shop where they're churning out these sort of generic wooden toys on a conveyor belt. But he thinks he's Santa Claus, and he sort of goes home at night in the middle of August or whenever, and he sort of paints shaving cream around his face, and he sort of says ho, ho, ho to himself in the mirror rather than, are you talking to me, you know. But he's very much in that sort of Travis Bickle sort of vein. And he goes out at night as the year moves further towards the Christmas season. He starts going out at night dressed as Santa with a sack full of toys that he's nicked from the factory where he works, and tries to squeeze himself down people's chimneys into their living rooms. And if they catch him, he kills them with things like Christmas ornaments and Christmas stars and things like that. It's absolutely extraordinary because it's sort of part horror movie, part sort of urban drama, and then deranged fantasy at the end. Yeah, Christmas Evil. Don't just take my recommendation. Listen to Mr. Waters. It's his favourite of all time. So
it's a great movie.
Yeah.
And I would love to re-recommend your recommendation of Silent Partner, because I really enjoyed that. I'm going to watch that again this year.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Cool. Well, that wraps up Christmas. We'll have to do a best New Year movie one.
New Year films tend to also be Christmas films, I find. Yeah. Quite often you get that sort of overlap.
But it's strange because there isn't that many New Year's Eve.
No.
Well, there's something, I guess, when Harry Met Sally has that big Christmas New Year's Eve thing.
Strange Days.
Strange Days, yeah.
And the build up to Y2K, wasn't it?
Yeah. But that's more a sort of millennium movie than specifically a generic New Year movie.
I'm sure there's loads of romantic comedies that have New Year's Eve parties.
Yeah, I think the lore of Christmas tends to be so strong that anyone setting out to write a specific New Year movie just has to put some Christmas stuff in as well, you know.
Cool, lovely. That's very much. Hope all of our listeners have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we will see you in the New Year with some more great podcasts.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Take care.